Oh, durka durka durka.
Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp, dealing you a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. And today I'm calling balls and strikes. I'm tired of tiptoeing around the list of people that we have to tiptoe around because we don't want to hurt any feelings. We don't want to get called out. We don't want the woke mob sicked on us like a bunch of rabid dogs. Did you see what happened at a New York mosque last night? Or maybe early this morning is probably a more accurate term. 4:30 a.m. outside the Dawood Mosque, also known as the Islamic Mission of America in Brooklyn Heights, a guy in a bright red jumpsuit shows up on camera, scatters shredded Quran pages on the steps like confetti, walks away, then comes back later and smears what cops say is feces all over the door. NYPD immediately calls it a possible hate crime. Naturally, their boss is a radical Muslim, the mayor. CARE New York jumps in within hours, condemning it as attempted desecration and demanding swift justice. Sounds bad, right? I'm calling BS from the jump. Everything points to this being a freaking lie, a setup, and a way to get more sympathy for Muslims right now. This whole thing reeks of a staged hoax designed to milk sympathy for Islam and ram through more bullcrap, quote, Islamophobia laws. So let me point out some of the facts here, and you're going to come to the same conclusion. At least anybody with a reasonable mind and non-smooth brain. Surveillance video caught this dude in a full-body red jumpsuit. Yep, that's right, red. Bright crimson. A black hat, a beard. Wow, it looks like an Islamic beard. White shoes, carrying a bag, not exactly trying to blend in downtown New York City. He allegedly tosses ripped up Quran pages, leaves, returns, slathers feces on the mosque door. No injuries whatsoever, right? No one around, no one sees him. Suspect is still at large, of course. Cops are treating this as a hate crime, of course. CARE's executive director called it deeply disturbing and a blatant act of hate, targeting a house of worship. But here's the problem. This is Jussie Smollett level theater right here. This is not how things happen. That's not how things work. Who commits a hate crime dressed like a cartoon character in one of the most surveilled cities on planet Earth? The beard, the cap make him look like he could stroll right into Friday prayers. And feces, come on guys. If this was genuine anti-Muslim vandalism, you'd expect something more symbolic that actually insults Islam, like pig blood or bacon. You know damn well that if this were a legitimate, quote, attack on their little faith, it wouldn't be feces. The reason why this tells me it's one of them is because we all know, and they know, that if somebody had really done something like this, they would lop off a pig's head or throw some pig's feet. Again, pig's blood or bacon. But because their religion prohibits them from even touching it, they wouldn't risk that because they're the ones carrying out the, quote, hate crime. But they still won't risk that in their own hate crime. So they don't dare to do that. Anyone who legitimately were trying to attack this place because of its faith would have 100% done something pig related. We all know this. Feces just feels random and of course gross, like someone trying way too hard to look hateful without actually doing anything that means anything to their little ritualistic ideology. This actually screams a setup for headlines more than anything, not real sincere vandalism. And we've seen this playbook before, not just the Smolletts and the other people staging crimes for a little bit of attention, with Muslims. They have a documented history of fabricating anti-Muslim hate crimes, quote unquote, for sympathy, cash, political points. Remember in 2016, the New York City subway hoax, where a hijabi woman claimed that Trump supporters attacked her and tried to yank her little headscarf off? She later admitted that she made it up. We knew she was lying. She admitted she was lying. This particular hoax fits perfectly. Conspicuous outfit, no real damage beyond doo-doo, instant care press release. It's designed to trigger the Islamophobia, quote-unquote, machine right when tensions are high with our attacks with Iran. And why? To push laws that criminalize any criticism of Islam. The word, quote, Islamophobia isn't a real clinical phobia like fears of spiders. It's a term invented by Islamist organizations to equate questioning Sharia, jihad, or terror stats with racism. It's a shield for ideology, not people. Every time so much as a Quran gets stepped on, it's national news. It's Islamophobia is overtaking the country. But when a Christian church gets burned to the ground or vandalized with anti-Christian graffiti all over it, and that happens constantly, it's just called arson. No hate crime, no federal task force, no CARE-style outrage, no Christophobia bills, just arson. Now, we've seen Europe and parts of Africa where Islamist mobs torch churches and it barely registers in the media. Here in America, we bend over backwards for one group while the others get crickets. Look, many everyday Muslims in America aren't smearing poo-poo all over churches or mosques or whatever. They're not doing these kinds of fake crimes or whatever. And a lot of them don't, I'm not saying most of them, I'm saying a lot of these Muslims are unorthodox. They're not practicing the religion the way it's intended to be practiced. They're doing it wrong. The orthodox ones are the radical ones. Polls from Pew and others show troubling patterns in Muslim communities here and abroad. Significant numbers of these people show support for Sharia overriding U.S. law, and they think apostates, like us, deserve death, and many even sympathize with jihadist goals. You ever notice how anytime there's some kind of a radical Islamic terrorist event, nobody from the Muslim community comes out and speaks down on it? You ever notice that? You ever notice how gun owners, for instance, there could be a shooting somewhere if some nutbag tranny wipes out of school or whatever. Every single gun owner gets blamed for it, as if we all took part in it. But whenever something happens where these radical Muslims, and they come out and say, we did this in the name of Islam, and they perform their little crimes, none of their people are expected to come out and apologize for their entire ideology like we are. Like we as gun owners are expected to be shamed and apologize and cower because somebody used a gun to do something. Yet when these people do it literally in the name of their own ideology, they're not asked to repent, to speak down and speak out against that. These people could easily come out and try to quell this, but they don't. U.S. Muslims trend more moderate than global averages, but that's mostly because they don't have overwhelming numbers like they do in Europe, where they have overrun the countries. Look, whenever these cockroaches were slowly coming in across Europe, they were quiet. They pretended to assimilate, or at least didn't speak out. Now, you put a microphone in their face, they're going to tell you, we're here to take over this country, because they have the numbers now. That's coming to America. Integration in Europe has failed with no-go zones and grooming scandals, and they want the same thing here. Look, we shouldn't give blank check sympathy to any group whose doctrine or polls show hostility to Western values. Why the special treatment here? I'll tell you why. Because people these days are so afraid to be labeled Islamophobic or canceled. And many of these people are scared to death to upset the woke mob and be called a hurtful name. But this happened in New York City, where they have a Muslim mayor, and he's an absolute radical. Things are going to happen as a result of this hoax, and I am calling it a hoax. Mom Donnie will waste no time turning this minor vandalism into a full-blown crisis. He'll hold an emergency press conference at City Hall. You watch. He'll be flanked by care leaders, imams. He'll be declaring it not just a hate crime, but proof of a surging, quote, Islamophobia epidemic threatening all Muslim New Yorkers. He'll demand the NYPD create a special anti-Muslim hate task force with extra funding and surveillance powers funded by your tax dollars, while church security gets nothing. And people who call it a hoax, look, critics on social media or in local news, whoever who dare to call it a hoax will be doxxed by city-aligned activists labeled far-right bigots by the mayor's office and potentially investigated under new local guidelines equating criticism of Islam with incitement. Mom Donnie could push emergency ordinances through the city council banning, quote, hate speech against mosques or the Quran, effectively creating blasphemy-style rules against anyone speaking out against Islam, Sharia, jihad-style stuff. Yeah, they're going to word and create and write a new law to attack stuff like this. I do believe this was staged, no doubt about it. And taxpayer money is going to pay for all this. Millions for enhanced mosque security cameras, guards across the 5 boroughs, while churches dealing with the real spikes in attacks Get lectures about tolerance instead. The schools won't be safe of that either. They'll accelerate mandatory anti-Islamophobia curriculum, rebrand diversity train that looks a lot like Islamic sensitivity indoctrination, and they'll downplay terror stats, and they'll certainly emphasize Muslim victimhood. It's all about victimhood. It's all about creating the image of Muslims being victims. Again, all these people who have been caught and called out for staging hoaxes in the past all did it for sympathy for themselves. We're looking at the same thing here. Bottom line, this Brooklyn mess doesn't pass the sniff test, guys. If it was real, they absolutely would have used pig blood, bacon, pig's head. It certainly would have made it look more believable. Instead, it looks like another grift to manufacture victimhood, smear critics, and erode our First Amendment rights to speak out against the evils of Islam. We need to stop the one-way sympathy for groups whose ideology often hates American values. Demand equal justice. Prosecute real vandalism as vandalism, not protected class theater. No special shields for any religion. We need to call this out as it is, folks. We need to stop letting people, whether it's the left or these radical Islamic nutbags, shame us into being quiet about the obvious stuff. They call you names? Who cares? Call them one back. I've told y'all before, I'm not here to try to be the better person. I will fight fire with fire. You start calling me names because you don't like the fact that I'm calling the truth out, I'm going to call you a better name, and it will be a lot more colorful. I will get down into the depths of hell and fight with you. I'm not above that. Folks, if you're sick of the narrative, smash that like button, subscribe for more no BS breakdowns, and drop your thoughts below. Is this a hoax or not? Share this if you want equal standards, not special ones. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, if you're looking for a book to educate yourself and to educate the idiots out there who can't think for themselves regarding mass shootings, go to damnliars.net. Again, damnliars.net, and get my brand new book, Damn Liars.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
It's hanging around.